Yep.
Joe, I want to go more in depth here. We're talking about the Celtics and just surprises. I actually do think that the Celtics could be in some deep. I'm not even gonna lie. I think the Wizards are winning that game. I think Russell Westbrook's obviously playing well. Beal is banged up, but they don't have Jaylen Brown. And Boston outside of Tatum, where's the offense going to come from? Kemba Walker's too spotty. The bench, look, I like Pritchard a lot, and I like some of their bench options, but do I really think it's good enough to beat a Wizards team that's on fire? No. And so, I mean, that's definitely something that I'm considering here heavily. Joe, what matchup out of that 9-10 game would Boston not want to see?
Um,
Because if I'm them, I actually don't know if I'm more scared of Charlotte or Indiana because Indiana's beefing right now, but they're far better on paper.
I'd want Indiana. I'd want Indiana, honestly, because just LaMelo is looking after the injury, of course, he's been looking, just like he's on a mission now. And obviously, as the Hornets announcer always says, Terry Rozier is just on the team too. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean,
it's tough because Hayward is out for the play-in, or at least the first game of it.
no,
But they're playing, they've been playing decently enough without him, but
yeah,
they have been slumping of late.
yeah, but so the Pacers are so spotty. I mean, I'd take like just a slimping Charlotte over the Indiana Pacers right now.
I don't disagree. I think Charlotte's definitely got a lot. I mean, Indiana's got a lot of problems. We talk about Bjorken and how the locker room's turning on him. This is a Pacers team that was playing far better earlier. We talked about how they kept losing to teams they shouldn't lose to. I remember Joe's brought up that point multiple times, and ultimately that's kind of what's cost him down the stretch here. I obviously think Sabonis is going to be hard to match up with. Look, I mean, you throw PJ Washington on him, you can maybe do a job. Like maybe you throw Bridges on him and switches because I like how Bridges is developed. But and look, on paper, I do prefer Indiana. But if we're talking about a matchup here, if you're Boston, would you rather play a Pacers team that's just absolutely at each other's faces, pretty much, just like up in arms with each other, or a Hornets team that, yes, is depleted, but it has their star rookie point guard back? They've got Scary Terry, they've got Graham, they've got enough pieces. Look, yeah, I'm with you, Joe. I wouldn't want to play Charlotte. I think Indiana, you can count on some self-implosion potentially. There's a lot of inconsistency. Am I scared about Brogdon, Turner, and Sabonis? Absolutely. But if they aren't on the same wavelength, look, chemistry is the number one aspect you need in a basketball team to succeed. So, yeah, I mean, if I'm Boston, I don't want to see Charlotte. If I see Indiana, I've got more hope. But yeah, Joe, I mean, either matchup could be sneakily tough for the Celtics.
And also, the Celtics I don't want to be that guy. They just suck.
This year, I think my dad asked me a question. He goes, "What's been the most disappointing team for you this season?" I said, Boston, without question. That was a team that was supposed to be top 4 in the East.
Even without Jaylen Brown, that's supposed to be a top 5 team, no matter what.
Yeah,
in the East, I mean,
look at the bottom of the East. Look, like the fact that
it's crap.
It's weak.
Brad Stevens might need to go.
And that's another question that we can get into if Boston gets bounced, because ultimately, right, Brad Stevens is a phenomenal coach, but that offense has had its problems. Yep. The defense has been up and down. Without Brown, that defense is going to suffer big time. And you look, it's so ISO-based. I love Tatum. I think he's a phenomenal player. I think ultimately that offense has run through him all year. But when you don't have the second option in Brown, and yes, there are some good pieces off the bench, but that offense becomes even more predictable than it already was. You know Tatum's going to be ISO ball. You know the ball is going to be in his hands. His usage rate's going to be through the roof. And ultimately, that's easier to game plan for than one would probably expect.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. It is. Boston, if you're a Boston fan and you think you're going places still this year, I mean, that's just as delusional as a Cowboys fan. I mean,
attacking his own people.
I mean, at this point, yeah.
Fair enough. All right, we're going to transition into a specific matchup. We kind of alluded to this when we talked about our most enticing game. And shout out to the Ball Fake podcast. He nicely says he's not been a fan of Boston's rotations. Honestly, me neither. And that's probably another comment on Brad Stevens as a coach. So it goes back to Joe's point. And Brad Stevens will be on the hot seat this offseason if they don't make the
Like
playoffs, in
you
my opinion.
have to be.
Yeah.
Like,
Like,
this
I
is
mean,
just
the
it's
talent on that
horrible.
roster, the fact that they haven't gone beyond the conference finals. And to be fair,
Yeah.
the year they went to the conference finals was an overachievement on Brad Stevens' resume. Since that, it's been constant letdowns for Boston. I like Brad Stevens' basketball mind. I think he's still a good coach, but I think ultimately that's a situation where your relationship with the organization has run dry.
Yeah. And that happens. I mean, it's not discrediting anyone like specifically other than Brad Stevens, of course. But just it's the way of life. I mean, he's probably going to get a head coaching job somewhere else.
Maybe in
Uh,
college.
yeah, I mean, I still think maybe an NBA job like is in his future.
I mean, look, I guess we'll see. I mean, I
Yeah,
think that we've talked a lot about the Portland job. And look, I think Stotts making the main field of the playoffs probably helps him. But we talked about mismanagement there. Do I think Stevens would be better in that situation? I don't know because it was so ISO based in Boston. That's not what Portland needs. And we can go into that in more depth if we get to that point. But